Well, hello and welcome to an episode 18 of the Positive
Yeah,
Echo podcast. 18 episodes, Gary. How you doing?
I'm very well. I was just having a quick bop to our intro music then.
It's a grower, isn't it?
Good choice, by the way. Good choice. I've had a really beautiful weekend. Not the weather, but a beautiful weekend staying with a friend of Mel and ours in a village called Seasalter, which is near Whitstable on the North Kent coast. And the weather was foul, but the food was good, the company was good. Yeah, and just a nice relax.
Sounds
And I came away with a new poem, which is always good.
very good. Sounds so thoroughly British as well.
Yeah,
Sea
very.
in the Kent countryside of the Kent coast.
Oh,
Fantastic.
it's stunning there. It
Isn't
really
it?
is beautiful.
Very
And
good.
it's only 3 or 4 miles away from the Shepherd Neame Brewery in Faversham.
Oh, bonus.
Yeah.
Good for
They
you.
do a very, very good tour there.
Do they
And
stop it?
a tasting afterwards, if
Of all
that's
the
your
things that
yeah.
I miss, or if I'm asked what
Mm,
would I do if I went back to the UK,
mm,
pint of UK bitter for sure with a
mm.
pub meal. It sounds like that's the sort of weekend you've had.
Yeah.
Sounds
Oh,
lovely.
and we ended up on Sunday morning in the drizzle in a hot tub
Did you? That sounds like fun.
for an hour and a half. Yeah, it was great. You know, your
Very
head gets wet and cold, but the rest of you is really in a good place.
confuse your system.
Yeah.
Confuse your system. Well, I'm very glad to be sat here with you for about an hour. I've had this
Mm-hmm.
weirdest of days. This included
Mm-hmm.
one of our cats having its one of its hind legs broken, and all the drama and upset that's caused.
Mm.
Mainly to me, as I was explaining to you before the show started, I'm thinking, I'm the man of the family, and I need to take care of this
Mm.
situation. They seem to have all taken it in their stride and far better than me so far today. So it's nice
Yeah,
to
but we all know you're a softie. You know, you play
yeah
the hard man, but no.
play the hard man. Yeah, that's me, right? With a scar
Yeah.
on my head that I got from. Guess how I got this? Guess who I got in a fight with last night?
Should have seen the other guy. Is that one of the
Well,
things?
should see the car and the parcel
Oh,
shop
ah.
that I lent into last night.
Mm.
Before we move on from Whitstable, did you eat any oysters? And they also have the Peter Cushing pub in Whitstable, which,
They do.
I mean, this is the man you want in a pub quiz team, isn't it? Pete, Solar
Yes.
Life Portugal. He's your
Yeah.
man when it comes to having a pub
Yeah.
quiz, which, despite being a Weatherspoons, is very lovely. Despite that,
It's beautiful. It's I believe it was an old cinema.
right?
Um, and then there's the Peter Cushing Theatre next door but one.
Very good.
And his own home that was with the blue plaque is by the beach, and somebody's bought it relatively recently and done a stunning refurbishment of it.
How lovely.
So he's very famous in Whitstable.
And when you
Remember the
splash.
Death Star, Star Wars, for
Oh,
anybody who
yeah,
can't
of
remember.
course. But before that, if you're splashing
Mm.
ketchup on your chips in the pub, you might be thinking a bit of Kensington Gore and Hammer House. Wasn't he in that
Yes,
franchise as well?
he did I think did Frankenstein and Dracula.
Him and
Um,
Christopher Lee, they were the
yeah,
terrors of our childhoods,
that's
weren't they,
right.
really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Very good. And Peter Cushing, yes, in Star Wars,
Mm.
of course, is one of his.
So no, I don't eat oysters. I'm one of those people that has, let's put it this way, a violent reaction to it.
Oh dear. Okay, let me take that off the screen then, and let's get
Mm.
underway. This may be one of the things you're remembered for. Actually, that's a
Mhm.
really, although that may seem very tangential, that we were
Yeah.
talking about a pub and Peter Cushing in the UK. This really hits the nail on the head. It strikes the right note, doesn't it? That's a
Yeah.
legacy, isn't it? That is a legacy. A great British actor, remembered to this day
Mm.
by us, by a blue plaque, by a pub,
Mhm.
and just evoking a time in British film history, maybe a time in British history.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about today, isn't it?
It is, and there's a difference between fame and legacy. He was
Yes.
both famous, um, but if you talk to any of the older people in Whitstable, he was loved.
Yeah, isn't that lovely?
Quite quiet, private man, but certainly a really good guy to know.
It's what we're talking about. How might one emulate that? He was such a lovely guy, that's meant to say.
Mm.
And apparently, although quiet and self-effacing perhaps and
Yeah,
modest, used to invite people in to see his trains. A great man. Had a train set. That's
yeah.
remarkable.
All the best to Rod Stewart. You know?
Really?
Yeah, oh
What's
yeah. And who's the other music guy?
Phil Collins? Simon Cowell?
Pete Waterman.
Oh, yeah, Pete Waterman's a
He
collection
has
of
a
all sorts of
vast
interesting things, isn't he?
layout. Yeah,
Yeah, well, there you go. Train spotter. The train
mm,
spotter mind, I think it is, isn't it?
yeah,
That some of
yeah.
us never grow out of. Right, you've got a process for us. So before we go into
Mm,
that, and I'm so glad you will. Not to put too much pressure on there, Gary, but you know about this. You're the originator of the whole positive echo idea, and
mhm,
you've coached people, and I'm sure legacy has come into it because it's a great coaching point, isn't it? To take that perspective of like, what will you leave behind? Not just what are you worried about this week, but what
mm,
might you leave in your wake ultimately, for generations to come. If I could put my cards on the table about this, one of my other hats is the Good Morning Portugal show,
yeah.
and I host a community there. And we have Gumpers, the Good Morning Portugal community. And part of that has always been for me encouraging foreigners, expats who come to Portugal to have a little side hustle or a project that might be their Portuguese positive echo,
Mm,
the thing that they create, because a lot of people come here and love the country and they want to give back, and it's all to do with that. It's all to do with creating something in the new place that's of benefit. It might be a livelihood and a pastime or a passion project for them, but in the best possible instance, it's a gift and a contribution to the society they're coming into as well. And I can't think of a
mm,
better I don't know, hybrid than that, of bringing my interest together. And one of the deeper levels of being part of the Good Morning Portugal Club is to work with people who have that in mind, and we actively
yeah.
support each other to create that. So I'm hoping that I can lift what you're saying here in the Positive Echo context into the Good Morning Portugal Club context, and give people tools to frame and think about and give a context to what they want to leave behind, having lived the rest of their lives in this wonderful country. That's my vested
Mhm.
interest.
And what I hear from you in that is there are things we want. It's like good novels. The hero starts out letting the reader know what they want. They want to make £1 million. They want to get to Vegas,
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But in Act 3, in a good novel, they discover what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And the two things are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing about your
Back to Star Wars. Back to Star Wars.
yeah
Yeah.
is we need a sense of belonging. And if you're moving to another country, it's really hard to feel like you belong,
Mm.
because to start with, you don't.
Yeah.
So the only way of, I think, of generating that feeling of belonging is to put yourself out there, even if you can't speak the language, because as you well know, Portuguese is quite difficult. There's a very steep learning curve.
Yeah.
But once you break through that and people see you as somebody who is prepared to make the effort, things change. And as soon as you sense that, oh yeah, I've got a foothold here, not just a house, not just a job, but I'm making friends and I'm making a contribution without being asked to. That's
Yeah.
the crux of it. So there's this thing about belonging and need. And I think from that, you can then begin to say, okay, what can I actually offer that fulfills the needs of other people? Not their wants, but their needs.
Yeah.
Even if that turns out to be give them space and leave them alone.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about legacy. And I think perhaps we should maybe spend a few minutes just deciding what you, Carl, think about legacy or definitions. And I'll throw in a few maybe different ones. And we'll get a feeling for what this legacy is and how it leaves, if it's a good legacy, a sense of a positive echo.
Absolutely.
And as we go through that, I'll introduce you to a process I used when I was an executive coach. It seems like a lifetime ago. It's only 3 years now. And they're called thinking partnerships. And I'll preface it before we dive into the detail later. I'll be brief as I can. We have these gurus and thought leaders, yeah, and coaches. And they seem to hold the crown jewels in their hands, the way of doing everything. And they hold it very tightly because that's the way they make their living. I don't need to do that anymore. So we're going to give the crown jewels away. One of the crown jewels away tonight. When you go and see a coach or a therapist or a mentor, or you go and watch one of these fabulous presenters, mentors, they're in the power position, and that makes you feel like you're not. You're the learner, the student. The idea of thinking partnerships is to have two people, you, me. They don't have to be friends, but they have to respect each other. And they become each other's coach by following a precise set of questions and not going into a random free-form conversation. And the remarkable thing about the process is it always brings out, first of all, the negative beliefs about yourself, your limiting assumptions. It allows you to look at what the positive opposites of those limiting beliefs are, play the role of someone that lives those positive opposites, and you ask yourself, what would life be like if I did more of that? And then you put that into your daily life.
Yeah.
So it's a tool for looking at any limiting belief and any goal that you care to mention. But we're going to try and point it at legacy as we go on. So maybe we just spend a minute thinking about what you think of when you hear the word legacy.
I've got a few things I'd like to contribute. There's a clip I'd like to play. I saw Piers Morgan, and forgive me, it's in the same bucket as oysters for people. So sorry if the mention of him and his
just
name.
hold your nose, you'll be fine.
You hold your nose, and just hear the information from his guest. He does seem quite able to attract big guests and bring interesting information out of them. So Novak Djokovic, I want to apologize, I think was Piers. It was all about him. I want to apologize. Novak Djokovic on Sinner, jabs, backlash, and more. But it's what he asked him at the end that's is bang on with this. So I hope to bring that onto the screen. And the etymology of legacy, it's always a good start for me to understand the legacy of a word as in its etymology. So the etymology of legacy itself comes from the Latin word legatus, meaning ambassador or envoy, which evolved through the Old French to mean gift left in a will or something passed down from the past. Excuse me. So a gift from the past. And funnily enough, my Mrs. Louisa is doing all sorts of ancestral work. It prompted me to open a box up of my dad's old stuff. So all of this is in the air at the moment of what people have left in their wake that we're receiving. So, and then, it's not just Piers Morgan, it's all about Piers. We're all like that, aren't we, to some extent? It's all about us, that the world revolves around us. And from that point of view, what is it we suddenly feel we might like to leave behind us that might be of benefit, that might be the gift, that might be in terms of legatus, ambassador, envoy, it's like who will remain your living presence and ambassador and envoy in your absence. I think it's a really nice way of looking at it. So I think that's spot on. And so if I may go to what Novak said about it as well, if I can bring up the right screen. Yeah, I think I've got the the clip here.
Imagine a tombstone,
Yeah.
and it says, "Here lies Novak Djokovic." What do you want it to say?
The man who touched people's hearts.
That's great.
I want to cry right now. I think I've realized what I want on my tombstone.
I love that.
Thank you for that.
I love that.
You helped me come to that realization.
Imagine a tombstone.
That's the clip. That's all there is to it. But I mean, it took a long time for them to get to that point, and it was the last question. But the fact that he got choked up talking about that tells you're in the right sort of territory, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And whatever you think about Piers Morgan, he is a very astute interviewer, and he will have carefully taken Novak on a journey and then hit him with that last question, knowing it got him out of his head.
Yes.
That he'd taken him somewhere else. So he took a risk, and he said exactly what he felt rather than what he thought, which is hopefully what we might end up doing this evening. And
it's an important distinction, isn't it? Because that to me, that's where we are. I mean, this is what happened with the cat episode today. There was all that I should be thinking about it, and then what kept trying to break through is what I actually felt about the situation as it was unfolding. And it's so important, I think, Gary, that what you're suggesting there. Yeah, go on.
You mentioned, I can't remember whether it was before or during the live session, that your kids were calm.
Yes.
But you didn't feel calm, and maybe came across not as your normal, cool guy self. They will have taken that in, even unconsciously.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And that is a legacy, that you've allowed them to see the emotional dad.
Yes. Yes.
Very, very important. I didn't get that lesson. My dad was so neutrally emotional. So everything was on a level. He daren't let himself go.
Right.
So I had no examples like you've given your kids.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
What's interesting, very interesting to it's all interesting. And what's especially interesting about that distinction between the thought and the feeling and what's conveyed is, I think, what I thought you were suggesting is if a child sees a parent endeavoring to, or actually pulling off a calm, rational exterior, but senses there's an emotional undercurrent, that's a kind of dissonance, isn't it, that we can grow up with. That's how intuitive people, where they're at all the time, all day long, aren't they? There's what's being presented, and then there's what's coming from the guts or being received in the guts. And that to me is so fascinating. And perhaps this, even if people never created a legacy, the process of trying to do it might help in some way combine or complement those two parts of ourselves and allow more of the authentic who we really are, as much as it conveys the rationalized version. Because Peter Cushing, going back to our avatar here today, Peter Cushing will have been an icon actor presentation through Hollywood and Pinewood and wherever, but presumably to himself, it would have been a matter of saying, well, that's my persona. But what I really am, and what I'd really like to share with you, is my train set or my kindness or whatever it was. These are different things, aren't they?
Yeah. One's your job. I mean, I've never met the man, but I've met quite a lot of actors recently, and it's just, for many of them, it's just a job. They don't get carried away with the celebrity.
Yeah,
it's just work.
It must be a distraction as well, mustn't it? At times, it must be a distraction.
I bet when he's in the pub with his friends, or he's walking down the beach with a friend, he wasn't the actor Peter Cushing. It was just Peter.
Yes.
So coming back to both our examples, I mean, I love my dad. He was a fabulous guy, hearted, big as a bucket, as we would say from where I come from. But I learned, and I only realized it much later in life, he didn't give me an example of moderate emotional range. You know, being really angry and aggressive. No, that's a bad example. But recognizing his anger or his elation in some way, verbally or physically, I would have had a lesson, but I didn't get the lesson.
Yes.
What you've done is give your kids a lesson in that it's okay to have emotion. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really nice.
I mean, whether or not it's good, it's true. That's the thing, isn't it? This is what's happening. It's the truth in as much as it's what's happening at the moment. And when we mess around with that, we cause all sorts of unholy problems, I think.
And I'm really interested in almost unconscious legacies.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I've said this before.
Hell yeah.
In great writing, they always say, show, don't tell.
Yeah.
So if you see the difference between a great series on TV and a not so good, is the not so good one will spend lots of time on exposition, one character telling the other character things that the other character will probably already know, but you, the viewer, couldn't possibly know. It's really boring, but it moves the program on quickly.
Yes.
So I'm interested in the actions and words and just the presence of people that change other people's lives without them really knowing how big a deal it is.
Yeah.
So can I give you an example?
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. It's what we're here for.
So this is my little wooden pig.
Hold on, full screen for this.
Very crude, beautifully done.
Yeah.
Little wooden pig with a little leather tail. I also have a piece of paper. Where are we? It says, the Mason Award for pig-headed assistance presented to Dr. Gary Colton, that's me.
Well done.
Well done.
Yes.
27th of the 6th, 93. That's a long time ago. So the backstory is Roger Mason was my head of department when I was a biomedical scientist back in Charing Cross in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And I wasn't doing that well. I'm like full academic, but I couldn't seem to get the really big grant applications funded. I got small stuff and I managed to publish some things, but I couldn't break into it, as it were, into the big time. And then I got a massive grant, nearly £1 million, that funded 3 people to work with me. Now, Roger knew because he was a joint applicant. It was like a junior applicant on it, but it was also my head of department. So he got the letter telling us we'd got the money before I did. He walked into my office, put the wooden pig down on my desk and handed me this. Bloody genius.
Yeah.
Because he knew I was quite introverted and I'd taken all of this stuff to really deeply to heart. And I was questioning my future as an academic. Even though I'd got what turned out to be some brilliant ideas, I couldn't quite find the language to explain them to people who didn't think like me.
Yeah. So
his legacy is this, and the fact that I went on to have another 20 years of being an academic after that.
Yeah.
Very successful. Why he chose to do that, I have no idea. He could have just waited for me to get the letter of award and shake my hand and well done. This is what legacy is about.
Do you know, it's so powerful, isn't it? And I don't suppose he went on a legacy workshop or course.
No.
This is straight from the heart, isn't it? But so powerful, a natural legacy creator, perhaps.
And he was a bit like some of these brilliant football managers. They know exactly how to manage each individual player. They may
Did
need
he
a
though? I mean,
different approach.
did he? Are you accrediting him with that, or did you see that? Was that his skill?
That was his. You could watch him with other people. There was one particular colleague who I'll not name, and he was never abusive to him, but he was absolutely down the line. You know, this is going to happen by this date,
Right.
and it would. And
yes, and he just knew how to
approach.
cooperate and communicate with that person.
Yeah, and somebody needed to put his arm around, to, you know, metaphorically.
You can't do that anymore.
No, well, you can do it metaphorically, but you shouldn't really do it physically.
But isn't that fantastic? I mean, the two things come to mind. One is the kind of sort of navel gazing quality of trying to create a legacy, which is, you could say, is a bit contrived, but I think it's a conversation worth having anyway. And how it is that are we training people anymore, or is it an untrainable thing to be that person, like a person I'm thinking of who was it's like an older generation thing. I remember getting a letter from a guy who I did some work with, and I shared with him a very earnest book I'd written, and far from him saying it's great, he said, like, enough with all the doom and gloom subjects. You need to get yourself a nice girlfriend and cheer up. And it was like, oh my God, that was risky, but it was spot on. It was absolutely what I needed to hear to push me off my prissy, self-obsessed space that I was in. And I don't know. I mean, do people still behave like that anymore? Do you think?
Well, you know, I'm of a certain age and gender, so one has to be, you know, careful, because I don't mix with many truly young people anymore. I don't want to misrepresent them, but I just wonder whether my generation and your generation have trained our children to be less generous to others.
Interesting. What's an example of that? How would that work?
Well, the fact that there's so much internet abuse, for example. It's not that we as older people of whatever generation, we dislike it intensely. We say it's a horrible thing and something should be done.
Yes.
But our generation is not able to do anything. So the drug of abuse is out there, easily available, with no punishment.
You're bang on again. You bang on again, Gary. I get sent memes by men of our age. It's a peeve of mine at the moment, and again, it connects with this conversation we're having, because they say to me, "What do you think about this?" And I say, I can see some. These are like sort of man-to-man memes, if you know what I mean. You know, they're sort of pithy things you wouldn't send to everybody, but once you've got a certain context of understanding, they get sent from one friend to another. And what peeves me about them is they speak of a kind of helplessness and resignation. Because I respond, I get it, but what are you going to do about it?
Yeah,
this just sounds like a old man moan to me. What are you going to do about it? Which again comes back into the, you know, you're not going to get remembered, are you, for sending bloody memes that are clever and funny but never changed anything?
I like the idea of militant generosity.
Whether you like it or not.
Well, as an example, and maybe it's just me and the newly discovered me. I was in one of my favorite coffee shops yesterday. I was in there this morning with Mel as well, but this is yesterday. And they've got this like shelf which looks out the window, and there's high bar seats by it. And then there's another one behind you against the wall. And there were two ladies talking about various things. And I'm trying to shut that off while I'm typing. But I started hearing about bone density and muscle loss. And, you know, my old academic life came back. And I turned around and I said, I really don't mean to interrupt your conversation, but when I hear things that I can maybe give some useful input, I find it really difficult not to. But if you feel like I'm mansplaining, please just tell me to go away. And they said, oh, no, 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 no. So I ended up, and I'm not going to go through the whole conversation, but helping them find a way of addressing loss of bone density that is really easy. And they were really pleased.
Good man.
I never offered my name or any means of
Crusader, a Caped Cruise mystery man.
Yeah, I just said, okay, that's it, I'm done. Went back to typing. So this is what I mean about militant generosity. You make it clear that you might have something that's useful to them, a person, but I'm quite happy if you don't want me to tell you.
Well, that was a very respectful approach.
It has to be
very skillful, yeah.
Because if you don't establish a modicum of trust right away, you could be any loony.
Yeah,
you're just going to talk at you for the next hour. And I made it clear that I only wanted 2 or 3 minutes of their time.
Yeah.
So this is what I call militant generosity. It can be verbal. It can be making sure that somebody can manage their bags to their car, and you make sure you tell them, oh, by the way, I'm not going to run off with them. My knees won't take it. You know. So militant generosity.
Yeah,
it's
beautiful.
a way of unconscious, almost invisible legacy.
Yeah, very, very good. Very, very good.
So maybe we could talk about thinking partnerships as we.
Yes, it's almost like after the break, Gary will talk about thinking partnerships. This will be our commercial. You're adding some punctuation with your lovely comment here, Gina, and with a little bit of concern as well. You start, hello boys, just had lung surgery a week ago. We've inspired Gina to pull out her small trampoline, with her weights for a bit. Thanks for this conversation. You go steady. We don't want to be responsible for any injury, post-operative injury there.
So zooming back 14 years to when I used to work with really world-leading people around exercise and aging and so on. The thing I would investigate is bovine colostrum, because huge numbers of people are it's a food, basically.
Yeah.
It's the first mother's milk.
Yeah.
So if you go, I can put in any in the transcript later. There's somebody I know who has a company called Neovite, and they have a pedigree herd of cattle, and a vet supervises every calf when it arrives, so that it has its colostrum, and then they pump off anything that's left, and they freeze dry it, and they pasteurized it. So people like elite older athletes use it for helping with bone density, muscle strength, cardiovascular recovery, and there's lots of science behind that. The other thing I do,
I mean, mother's breast milk is just a miracle. I was talking about it. Our family were talking about it together last night. I mean, it's a building block, isn't it?
It's packed full of. We did some analysis on bovine colostrum, cow colostrum.
Yeah,
there are at least 10,000 natural molecules in it.
Yes. And what about the sort of trans species bioavailability? Because there are all sorts of issues, I think, aren't there, with mother's milk that might be repurposed not for the infant in question, that cause all kinds of problems for people, and understandably so. But it wouldn't have been so much the case 50 or 100 years ago, I don't think, would it? It would have been seen as a totally unsexualized medicine, basically, wouldn't it? And
the Maasai drink, the chiefs get colostrum, or they did. Camel colostrum is really good stuff, but you only need relatively small amounts. But also, almost all the top international rugby players.
Do they really
on this? And it's WADA approved because it's just a food, but it's got all these growth factors in that help build.
Mammalian miracle. Incredible.
Yeah. And the last thing is resistance bands.
Okay.
Rather than weights. Yeah.
Okay, so working against yourself, as it were,
Yeah.
with the resistance.
The big stretchy rubber bands.
Yeah,
they're brilliant.
Oh, they?
All right.
Okay.
So
good. There you go, Gina. A bit of added value for you there. Right, we're looking at. Shall I bring it up onto the screen? You're very kind.
Which is available on Google Docs, and we'll give you the link in the transcript.
Right. Okay. How to find your legacy. That's the one. And I can turn it to a presentation mode. And there we have it on the screen there. So Gary Bolton.
So this is a tool, as I say, for two people who are going to meet regularly. One's going to be the questioner and the other one's going to be the thinker. And then after half an hour, you swap roles. And it goes something like this. I'm going to look at my own version of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to come eventually to a thing called the incisive question. And this is taken from a book by Nancy Kline called Time to Think. And the question goes like this, and the grammar's clunky, but listen carefully. If I know, this is an example, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
If I know I give fabulous presentations, how will that help me deliver my message? So it's going, if I know, there is no argument.
Mm-hmm.
I do this. I give fabulous presentations. Now I'm in the mindset of, well, what do people who give fabulous presentations do? How do they do what they do?
Mm-hmm.
And if I work out how they do what they do, how will that help me deliver my message? So you could go, if I know what my legacy will be, or my legacy is, how will that help me be remembered?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the incisive question.
Yes. So
the thinking partner process is very simple. You establish confidentiality, and that, because if you don't trust this person, and you won't develop trust, and if you feel rather that whatever you say is going to leave the room and be gossiped about, yes. You can have a formal agreement if you really want.
Yes.
So now you're going to build a thinking environment. Sounds fancy, but it just means time set aside, an hour, 90 minutes maybe, because you want to have your hellos and goodbyes. 30 minutes each person, being a thinker or a questioner. And you need to find an agreeable, hopefully neutral location that's quiet. Yeah. You can do it on Zoom or any other platform that is available. And it's vital that if you're the questioner, you only ask the questions in the process, and you don't start thinking of impromptu questions that spring into your head that are triggered by what the thinker might say in reply to another question.
Yeah.
All right. It's not the job of the questioner to try to understand anything or offer solutions. The thinker must do this hard work alone. Because if you don't come up with your own solutions, you can't own them. You'll never follow through with them. So, step one. Partner one asks, what do you want to think about today? And partner one, the questioner, stays silent but attentive. Partner two, the thinker, finishes any thinking or speaking in answer to this question. And that might be, well, today I want to investigate what my legacy is going to be. And then the questioner, partner one, says, is there anything more you think or feel or want to say about this? And sits there quietly listening. So you get the idea. You state the question and then you're quiet and allow the partner two to think. So the next one is, well, what do you want the session to achieve at this point? So you have time to think, and partner two answers to the best of their ability, because it might be a bit fuzzy. That's fine. So it might be something around, I'm not sure how to leave a legacy. I'm just pushing the envelope here. Partner one in step 3 then asks, what are you assuming that is stopping you achieving this goal today? Might make a list. So you give them time to dig deeper and deeper. Partner one might ask that same question again, but exactly the same question. So you end up with a list of what we call the bedrock blocking assumptions. Well, I can't leave a legacy because I've got no money. Okay, is that really the deepest negative assumption you have about yourself? So you end up with a list of all these assumptions and you're not discussing them. Partner one then asks, which of these bedrock negative assumptions is the biggest block to you progressing with today's goal? Partner two thinks and selects their biggest block, and it's their biggest block. It might seem very trivial to the questioner, but it won't be to the thinker. Step 5, partner one asks, well, now you've got your biggest block, what's the positive opposite of that assumption? So using the example of the presentation, because it's easy, the negative assumption was, I'm crap at presenting or public speaking.
Yes.
Well, what would it be your positive opposite? Well, I'm great at public speaking. And then you're going to work with that to create that incisive question, which the thinker asks themselves out loud.
That's powerful.
If I know I give fabulous presentations, how will that help me deliver my message? And they make sure that they write that question, and they may ask it 3 or 4 or 5 times of themselves, and they'll come up with a whole list of, well, really great presenters know how to moderate their voice, their breathing. They'll come up with a massive list. Any which of those things they could play with before the next time they have to give a presentation, or they play with to work out what kind of non-monetary legacy they could give, the invisible legacies. And then after 30 minutes, they change roles. At the end of the session, the final step is each partner asks each other, what quality do you respect in me? And that's the trust step. So that is a thinking partnership, very quickly gone through. But I tell you, it's incredibly powerful. I've introduced.
What do you think, as a scientist, and I'm getting a sense of this? I'm not a scientist. I wouldn't call myself as well. I suppose I am in one sense, but not in the formal or traditional or conventional sense. What do you think it is about the things that Nancy has distilled into that process there that are the real game changers? I mean, certainly that last question is really powerful, isn't it? The warm and fuzzy finish is not just like
it's not warm and fuzzy.
It's not, is it? It's not just a like a compliment to butter up your conversational partner.
Yeah. If you read Time to Think, you
Yeah.
realize there's decades of neurological and psychological research gone into that one question, the incisive question.
Yes. Yeah.
It's about giving yourself permission to be the thing you want to be that unlocks the how. So we're really good at answering how questions and what questions and when questions. We're terrible at answering why questions. And the why question is always about personal judgment. So using again the public speaking one, somebody has judged in themselves that they don't have what it takes to speak in public because they've been conditioned by life. And yes, they might have they might get over anxious, but they may have learned how to be over anxious. So the incisive question is basically saying, well, let's just play, just between you and me, our thinking partnership, play what it's like to be the best public speaker you have ever been or ever seen. I should say seen, and just hold that. Now you get them to say in their mind, what is it they do? These brilliant presenters like me. And you ask them to make a list of all the brilliant things that they do. It might be the clothes they wear. It might be the honey and lemon they have to beforehand to relax their throat. It could be anything. But they're beginning to realize there's a game to this.
And you're being taken out of yourself, aren't you?
You are.
In two ways. You're changing perspective, and I think you're changing your center of observation and consciousness with this, aren't you? There's a lot in this, which seems like a sort of co-counseling scenario. And funny enough, I mean, at the moment, it just occurred to me with the people who I've always wanted to work with, who are game changers, the movers and shapers, literally coming to Portugal. A morning session I'm doing already, like 7:30. Do a quick check-in call. What are you up to today? Get a bit of support, accountability. How did it go yesterday? And let's meet again tomorrow. Rinse and repeat. And another part of that was an offer of co-coaching, I called it. Just a phrase that came to me. And that's what this is, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is a way of non-judgmentally, supportively, dynamically, creatively listening to another person, but also hearing yourself in a new way.
Well, it's incredibly complicated what goes on for both. You would imagine that the person asking the questions doesn't get anything out of it until they get a chance to be the thinker.
I'm sure that's not true.
But they're watching somebody else. They're actually hearing the question that they've just asked.
Yeah.
So they're processing it in a different way to if they think that question. So yes, they'll be listening to the other person who's done the thinking and the answering, but they can't avoid addressing the same question, but inside their own heads.
Yeah.
So there's this amazing dynamic going on between two people who
Beautiful.
are both learning about themselves and each other as they go along. And
also, Gary, making the time to do this is profound as well, isn't it? Being in service to someone else, to give them the opportunity to do that, to give yourself the space to do it, is like you've already started the process once you've agreed to do it, haven't you?
You have. And the thing about being the get this into the right words, there's no hierarchy. So you're the questioner, but because there's no pressure on you to ask clever questions, usually the clever questions are all leading questions, you ask an open question that allows somebody to just extemporize.
And you know what?
Also don't have to come up with smart solutions.
Right.
So there's no pressure on the questioner to be clever. You just ask the questions and sit back and listen.
I heard this observation about AI yesterday. I think it was Vitor Costa, a friend who's in real estate, and we were talking about the application of AI in real estate. But he was saying the interesting thing about AI is it asks questions, and I think that and so do real estate agents and human beings generally. But the quality of listening or prompting that I've had from AI is very different for the reasons you've just given.
Yeah.
Humans are gaming each other, aren't they? Or themselves,
Yeah.
or putting pressure on themselves to come up with something smart, clever, or that will
Yeah.
make them a profit. And
Because
that will be in AI at some point, but I don't think it's there yet. And it's much more innocent, isn't it, as a questioning process?
it's quite. I've played with ChatGPT recently.
Yeah.
I tried to drive it crazy and almost succeeded. That's a story for another day. The thing, when we're having a conversation like we are now, we're kind of anticipating what's going to come next. So we're not quite clued in, because we're trying to make the next question or the next smart aleck interjection, or the laugh in the right place. If you take all that away, it protects the bodies.
Yes.
Because they don't have to be smart. They don't have to be assertive. They don't have to be anything except prepared to think.
Yes.
When they're in the thinking chair. If you're in the asking chair, just ask the damn questions.
Yeah.
So it's completely level. Where are we? Completely level.
Well done.
And I've never known anybody fall out. I've been aware of hundreds and hundreds of these partnerships over the year, and they've not broken down.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, it might be there's some sort of compatibility thing that might not work especially well.
Yeah.
But I can't see why it would become difficult in any way.
And I know we're kind of levering it towards legacy as a tool.
Yeah.
But the actual question that you begin with is always the thinker's question.
Yes.
And it can be tiny. It could be, well, I want to make a decision between X and Y. Do I leave the diamond ring to my first daughter or my second daughter?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. What's in the way? Why can't you make this decision?
Yes.
That's what a thinking partnership can address. It can address geopolitical stuff. It could be anything.
I would think. I mean, because what's changing is not the answers, but the questioner, right? But that seems to me to be what's happening.
Yeah.
I have another clip I want to play. I mean, so many recent conversations and thought forms I've had have come this way, or are connected to what we're talking about. So it's really wonderful. And but maybe I can just leave this last clip as a. It seems to be connected to me because it's another way of getting ourselves out of our usual ways of thinking, which become prisons, really, don't they? You know, our ways of our survivalist ways of thinking and being are survival mechanisms largely, and they're well practiced. So it's very difficult to get outside of that to have any true creativity and a breakthrough. And it often takes a shock or some sort of T-boning event to break that up, sadly. But that seems to be the dynamic of change for us, for many of us, for most of the time. However, before I go to that, maybe that can be a last thought. Did you have any other thoughts?
No, I failed this week. I knew we'd probably talk a lot, so I haven't got and in other news.
No worries. Well, I've got something. This is a speaker from a Facebook reel. I have to say, I'm finding social media inspiration and comedy just getting better and better all the time. I mean, you have to work through a lot of rubbish to get to it, but the volume of quality is there if you are prepared to sift. And this is something I found and was very keen to send to share, especially and in this context, it seems appropriate to do so as well. So I'll leave this as a parting. We'll go to the outro after this, if we may, Gary. Do you have a goodbye for people at least?
Yeah. Bye, everyone. See you on the 3rd of December with the Midlife Nomad.
Oh, okay. And then on the 17th, we've got our delayed guest, haven't we?
Yeah, Stephen
Stephen.
Sonsino.
So
and then, yeah, it's Jada who is the midlife nomad, and I've just set somebody up for the new year, but that will keep.
Very good. Well, that will be 20 episodes in this year.
Well,
so well done
amazing.
us on that. It will conclude this year with 20 editions of episodes under our belts, and go into the new year with more inspiration and more positive echoes. I'll leave you with our outro, because we won't deprive people of the jazz. But also Dr. Chris Lee here, which I found very interesting. And I'll say thank you very much, because we'll play our outro straight after this. Cheers, Gary, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time, mate.
Bye, everyone.
All right, ciao.
Want to know something gross? Want to know something uncomfortable? In the midst of transition and chaos, your brain chooses catastrophizing something that doesn't exist instead of sitting in the discomfort of what could be. Your brain's default mode is not to think and ruminate about potential. It thinks and ruminates about problems. And this is what overthinking is. The reason that the way to turn off overthinking is by directing your focus and answering questions. So the default mode network inside of the brain gets fired up when you are met with information that looks similar to a past pattern that was scary, fearful, or we didn't have the tools or resources to process. And once that default mode gets kicked on, it practices the problem and it doesn't look for solutions. So one of those things that you can start to do when you start to overthink is just recognize, oh, this thing, I'm just re-identifying the same problem. And this is how we get stuck on our patterns. Let me ask different questions. What does this look like? What does this feel like? And you will find yourself breaking free of those patterns. Transition and